Here we are again. It's the season of Yuletide cheer and having to go to two different houses on Christmas Day because you're a child of divorce and your parents can't be in the same room together anymore. And in the spirit of Christmas combat and being torn between two worlds, we're going to look at a few more holiday specials with the superheroes. I bet you thought I'd have run out of these by now, but my trick is to dig deep into the obscure and also stretch the definition of superhero a bit. Are they characters that fight the forces of evil through fantastical means? Do they have a secret lair or belong to a team with a cool name and each member has a unique gimmick? Yeah, those all fall under the umbrella. If John Constantine, Blade, Nick Fury, Kazar, and the Transformers can be considered superheroes, then the definition is a little bit more broad than just the cape and tights types. So, sneak one of Santa's cookies for yourself, drain your bank account to buy your estranged son's affection, sit back and enjoy some more holidays with the heroes. I have no idea what the acronym SMASH stands for, and I'm glad that I don't. Alright, the Hulk's not in contention, he's on the Avengers. From the same universe as Drake Bell's Ultimate Spider-Man, Hulk and the Agents of SMASH has a lot of the same vibes and even shares some characters, like J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. Since the MCU has completely dropped the ball on Hulk-related stuff over the years because of rights issues prohibiting him from any more solo movies, I'm at least happy that a generation of kids got to have 52 episodes of a Hulk cartoon about him and his side characters and his villains. Whether or not the show is good is for someone else to decide. But at the very least, I thought this one episode was okay. It's a Wonderful Smash features the Hulk and his team of fellow gamma-powered misfits finding themselves trapped in a simulation run by the Collector that shows people their dream life. Mad respect for this episode opening with a fight on the ice rink in front of the big Christmas tree at the Rockefeller Center. It's been a while since we saw one of those, but I love that set piece, and I think it's really funny how many different superheroes across the multiverse have trashed that place. After that, our muscle-bound bruisers are transported to a happier version of their lives where everyone's career is working out and they have disposable income. Oh god, that's a nice place to be. But Rocket Raccoon shows up to snap them out of the illusion for a team-up with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Both superhero teams are trying to break free of this Christmas-themed paradise and get a space MacGuffin orb to broker a peace treaty between the Shi'ar Empire and the Kree Empire. Yeah, the Christmas stuff gets kinda shoved back by all the cosmic Marvel crossovers, unfortunately. My description of it is probably more convoluted than it actually is presented, but the middle of the episode turns into a muddy sci-fi adventure without a lot of holiday spirit. But it comes back in at the end when the Hulk invites the Guardians to a holiday dinner at their favorite diner. One of the things I know about this show is that it's usually presented with this framing device of A-Bomb filming everything with the camera drones and treating the Hulk's lives like a documentary. But that takes a back seat in this episode since most of it is in the simulation or an alien spaceship where they don't have access to that stuff. Despite using the orb's magic to show the Collector the error of his greedy ways, he still ends up capturing all of New York City during the Contest of Champions arc in Spider-Man about a year later. As a holiday special, I wouldn't really recommend this one because the theme gets stifled by so many other things, and it's really not the main focus for most of the episode. It's weird how this show also draws everyone's teeth to be individually defined. Ugly Sonic-looking asses. Now, maybe the Kids Next Door is pushing it a little as a superhero team, but this episode is undeniably comic booky from the very beginning. You gotta love Tom Kenny doing a Stan Lee impression.
Look out, true believer! With bones of solid peppermintium, the ferocious leader of Santa's elite strike force, Alpha Strike, is Wintergreen!
My friend Random Guy does a better one, though. I used to think their name was Kids Next Store when I was little. Yeah. This series features a team of 10-year-old secret agents in an organization that fights for kids' rights against the tyranny of adults. They battle things that kids hate that are represented with costume supervillains and monsters, like homework, dentists, eating your vegetables, bedtimes, and getting coal in your stocking at Christmas. This is definitely one of the more creative and imaginative shows on Cartoon Network when I was a kid, and their Christmas special is an extension of that. Instead of something more standard, their holiday episode is a really elaborate parody of X2, X-Men United. Santa's workshop is attacked and the KND are framed by their eternal rivals, a bunch of spoiled evil rich kids named the Delightful Children from down the lane. In response, Santa's crack team of superpowered elves are dispatched to take down the kids next door, and they're all very obvious analogs to X-Men characters. They got a Christmas elf version of Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, and Wolverine. Man, their name is an Alpha Flight reference in 2005. These writers were real nerds. Wintergreen is such a funny subversion of Wolverine, and I love his costume. I'm gonna speak this into existence too. If you're someone who makes costume mods for video games, I want this to be an alternate costume for Wolverine in Marvel Ultimate Alliance or something, complete with the candy cane claws. The Delightful Children are actually after Santa's naughty list, which is a parody of Professor X's Cerebro, and his sleigh and reindeer are the interface to control it. Instead of searching the globe for mutants, he uses it to determine who gets presents or coal. They take the parody even further by having one of the kids next door take over Santa's sleigh for her own purposes, like when Magneto turned Cerebro against humans in X2. I have no idea how they came to this conclusion, like this would be the plot for the Christmas episode, but I love it, and it's so much fun. I just wish we got to see these X-Men elves in another episode or something, because they're so cool. Kids Next Door is just a fun show in general. I'm still surprised they had a whole musical episode where all the music was parodies of Gwar songs. Oh, and their treehouse was used as the big Christmas tree at Rockefeller. We got 2 of these in 1 episode this year. We're so back! Every pre-Batman the Animated Series appearance of Batman is kind of a blind spot for me. He had so many different cartoons before that with all almost identical art styles, and I never watched any of them. There's one that feels a lot like the Hanna-Barbera Scooby-Doo show, there's Super Friends, the one with Adam West and Burt Ward doing the voices, the Scooby-Doo crossovers, but I know there's a Christmas special in there somewhere. In The Adventures of Batman, episode 14, The Cool, Cruel Christmas Caper, the main story is something involving stolen Turkish pastries, I don't know, and the much shorter backup story is Mr. Freeze impersonating Santa Claus to steal the Star Topper from Gotham's big Christmas tree, which is apparently worth millions? Personally, I would not put a delicate item worth millions of dollars outside in the winter weather balanced precariously on a tree branch. It's safer with Mr. Freeze than it is up there exposed to the elements. Batman and Robin are completely cryogenically frozen multiple times in the episode, and then it just wears off and they don't seem to care. I imagine that would be a pretty unpleasant experience. Mr. Freeze also needs to wear his refrigerated suit to survive, but most of this episode has him running around in just a Santa costume with no helmet on. I have no respect for this cartoon, I'm very sorry. If you're like 56 years old and this was your favorite show as a kid, that's rough, buddy. This episode is just so janky that it makes me laugh constantly for stuff that's unintentionally funny.
The dynamic duo's dog team's gaining on us, Mr. Freeze.
Candy hot dogs.
Santa, I want to...
I love how limited the animation is, so when Robin runs off screen, you can actually see the animation cell being scooted along like Poochie the dog returning to his home planet. Batman's steering wheel isn't attached to anything as he zooms down the street at like 90 miles an hour. And Batman uses the word Robin like it's punctuation to every sentence.
Look at that priceless diamond star, Robin. Let's go, Robin. Get ready, Robin. Careful, Robin. Keep moving, Robin. Up here, Robin. Now, Robin. Swing, Robin, swing!
I will admit sometimes Batman is really well drawn in these close-ups and this art style is really nostalgic. But this is also really light on plot and extremely short. I think he'd be better off just watching the BTAS episode with Joker. Mr. Freeze has some big-ass feet. Damn, he's probably more hung than a mistletoe. Man, that episode fucking sucked. Transformers is a superhero story, come on. It started as a Marvel comic and Spider-Man was in their 3rd issue. That's not up for debate. Transformers Animated in particular really tried to characterize the Transformers as superheroes by having them battle non-Cybertronian human supervillains with powers and costumes.
And especially our city's cybernetic superheroes for attending this magnificent grand opening ceremony.
In this 2-part episode titled Human Error, the Autobots awaken on a Christmas morning to find that they've been turned human, and they set out on a quest to figure out why. Along the way, they roam around the city of near-future Detroit and deal with the ups and downs of being human. Even though it's very difficult for them, in some ways it's also enjoyable for them, especially Prowl, who is more in tune with nature and philosophy in this iteration. The Decepticons attack and the Autobots find a new appreciation for humans after walking a mile in their tiny, fragile bodies. Being a 3-story tall, nearly indestructible, immortal machine of war is probably an awesome existence, and being us meat machines piloted by tangled gray slime sucks. I really haven't encountered this trope much in the Transformers franchise. Depicting them as humans is pretty rare, and the only other thing I remember doing that was the IDW comics, where they kinda ran away with the holographic driver concept, and the human modes intentionally looked a little bit off from how you'd imagine the characters. Like Bumblebee's hologram was Lindsay Lohan as a Herbie reference. These designs for them are really solid and maintain their aesthetic and personalities really well. I especially like how Optimus looks just like David Kaye. See, this was during that special period of time where Optimus Prime was allowed to sound like something other than Peter Cullen, and a bad impression of Peter Cullen because they didn't want to pay union rates. Bumblebee's little hat is so fucking adorable, man. I do wish Bumper Robinson caught on as the voice of that character and they just kept him around instead of copying the Bayverse stuff. Don't worry, Prowl isn't actually a cop, that's just a disguise. You can still drop acid in front of him and he'll be cool about it. Eventually, the team discovers that the impossible hasn't happened, but instead they're all being trapped in a simulation by Soundwave. You know what? I didn't plan that this way on purpose. I didn't know this and the Hulk episode were so similar. The Transformers one is way better, though. Soundwave in this iteration is a popular toy that was brought to life and then upgraded by the Allspark, and while the main one is a full-size Transformer, he's also the hottest selling toy of Christmas this season. Their half-Transformer, half-human pal, Sorry, tries and fails to liberate the Autobots from their Christmas fantasy, so she recruits a bunch of misfit characters that have been introduced throughout the show to become a substitute Autobot team. My favorite is Wreck-Gar, who is voiced by Weird Al.
The mighty Wreck-Gar is no match for the mighty Wreck-Gar.
The episode culminates in Optimus and Soundwave engaging in a guitar-bass battle. Fuck yeah. It's a fun two-parter that uses Christmas as the setting, but not a lot of holiday stuff happens once the plot gets going because they're so wrapped up in battling Soundwave. But Wreck-Gar keeps the spirit of the season alive. God bless that idiot robot. Okay, this is where I think the debates are going to come in. Are the Ghostbusters superheroes? I mean, morally they're more like anti-heroes because they're trying to profit, but as you can imagine, by virtue of including this special, I think yes. Now, they aren't super in the sense of having powers, but Batman and Iron Man don't have superpowers either. So I think we can classify proton packs and ghost traps as tech-based powers. They also have a specific identifiable costume that they wear, they have a headquarters, and they do battle the forces of evil. Yes, their variety of villains is contained exclusively to ghosts and demons, but, Blade only fights vampires and he's still in the bracket. I do think it'd be fun to see the Ghostbusters fight a living bank robber, or a human being with an animal-themed costume and a doomsday weapon. Xmas Marks the Spot is episode 13 of the first season of Real Ghostbusters, as opposed to those posers who are not the real those fake-ass Ghostbusters. This episode is written by J. Michael Straczynski, the famous comic author behind the last truly great Amazing Spider-Man run. Before the corporate overlords forced him to write that garbage that ruined everything. I've actually never watched this show before, so it was fun hearing the voices for the team for the first time. Peter Venkman just sounds so much like Garfield that it makes me laugh, and Ray is just Fred Jones from Scooby-Doo. The episode actually got a legitimate laugh out of me a couple times, mainly because it starts with the team accidentally time-traveling to Victorian London and interrupting Jacob Marley and the three ghosts from visiting Ebenezer Scrooge. So he just doesn't learn anything and just stays a terrible person? That's such a funny concept in itself, but it's actually utilized for even more comedy as the episode goes along with the butterfly effect. Ebenezer Scrooge was such an asshole that it made the entire world hate Christmas and just renounce the holiday altogether. I do have to wonder how that would have affected Christianity on a global scale for the last 200 years. The Busters were a bit hasty. Let's crack open a history book and see how things shook out over time. I'm curious. This might have some positives. How is Ned Flanders written in this timeline? I need to know. Nah, I miss Christmas too much. Alright, put it back, guys. The main conflict, however, is that Scrooge's ghosts have been contained and getting them back is a whole process. So the other Busters have to time travel back and pretend to be the ghosts to force him to see the error of his ways, while Egon tries to get the actual ghosts back. So while the A story is funny, the B plot interests me because I never thought about what the Ghost Vault would look like on the inside. And it's cool seeing Egon explore around in there and have to evade previously captured ghosts. Kinda reminds me of Ben 10 going into the Null Void or Superman in the Negative Zone. This one is full of surprisingly really good humor and feels Christmassy the whole way through instead of using that as a bookend for the story and getting too wrapped up in action and violence for the middle. I think this one and Kids Next Door are my favorites this year. Well, this is the part where I usually give you an update and tell you how my year went, and so on. I guess the most I can say is it's been nice finally living with my wife in our own place and really doing the grown-up thing all the way. We pay the bills and hold down the fort, and it's all thanks to you, dear viewers, for your continued support and the generosity of those who donate on Patreon or just use my Fortnite creator code. I never thought in a million years that the Fortnite creator code would pull my ass out of the fire for paying off stuff like hospital bills and taxes, but it's surprisingly useful. Thank you for keeping the lights on and helping me prove my condescending extended family wrong when they said things like, "You'll never support yourself with YouTube, you should get a real job." It is a real job, Aunt Brenda! No one asks you for selfies at the bookstore! I'm hip with nerds! I don't have an Aunt Brenda, but I'm not gonna name names. I hope things are going well for you two, and I'm sure the more, let's say informed of you out there are probably terrified as hell about the upcoming year. But keep your chin up, never surrender, and go for the eyes if you need to. We're going to survive like we always do, and I'm proud of you for making it this far. See you next year. I always get mad at YouTube for not putting my videos in the subscription box because people will comment, "Finally, Xavier uploads again after all these years," not knowing 3 other videos came out within the last month already. So maybe that stupid bell icon thing will help you remember I exist. If you want other ways to support the channel, you can always go hit up that Patreon for early videos and exclusive stuff because it's just $1. I'm not kidding, it's only $1. Isn't that cool? If just 5% of the people subscribed to me donated only $1 a month, I could make videos even faster and keep my house. You can also check out our merch on TeePublic, or just buy some of my random stuff on eBay. I have a pretty substantial collection of old toys that are still in the box in perfect condition, so go take a look in case you find something you like. And lastly, since this is a YouTube video and you probably play Fortnite, drop my creator code XavierGM next time you buy a silly dance or a cool character skin. Really helps me out. See you next time!